Hey, welcome back to the spot for Fantasy Footballers. I'm Asa Rehman. It's been about a week since the last video, and in that time, a European Super League was proposed and then dissolved, and it has absolutely no impact on your FPL team. So we'll talk about the usual things here, the top fantasy players in each of the fixtures for Game Week 33. Then I'll reveal my Waiver 11, and then we'll talk about whether you'd rather have James Rodriguez or Adama Traore. We'll discuss that and more right here on the spot. Well, there's a lot to cover in this video, so I'll quickly get into it. I just want to remind you to subscribe to the channel and ding the bell so you're notified every time I drop new content. All right, who's going to be the next Jesse Lingard or Ilkay Gundogan when he was hot, or even Matheus Pereira? Well, we might find them in this part of the video. I'll be going through the top fantasy players in each of the 8 fixtures for Game Week 33. Just 8 matches in this game week, so we'll start with Arsenal and Everton. Dani Ceballos is averaging 4 points in his last 4 matches. He's coming off back-to-back assists in his last 2. Nicolas Pepe, 3.25 in his last 4 matches. And then on to Seamus Coleman of Everton, a pretty decent player in recent weeks. 5.5 points in his last 4 matches. 90 minutes just once, though, in that span. And he does have 2 assists in his last 4. And then finally, James Rodriguez, 5 points average in his last 4 matches. 1 goal, 1 assist in his last 3. Moving on to Liverpool and Newcastle, Trent Alexander-Arnold, one of the best players in the league as far as fantasy goes right now. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 clean sheets in his last 4. Diogo Jota, pretty hot as well right now, 6.25 in his last 4. Alan Saint-Maximin, inconsistent as far as minutes goes. He's been coming off the bench or starting and then being subbed off, but still averaging 4 3/4. Joelinton, 4.5 in his last 4. West Ham versus Chelsea then. Jesse Lingard, the hottest player in fantasy terms right now. Jesse Lingard averaging 11.25 in his last 4 matches. Incredible. Jared Bowen averaging 7.75. Christian Pulisic for Chelsea averaging 6.75. And Antonio Rudiger, maybe the most consistent option as far as Chelsea defenders goes. He's averaging 3 3/4. Sheffield United versus Brighton then. Ben Osborne in the best form of any Sheffield United player, averaging 3.5 points in his last 4. John Fleck, Mr. Consistency, 2 points every match. So that's his average. Unfortunately, not good enough to be on anyone's team. Totally understandable. Joel Veltman averaging 5.75. Lewis Dunk averaging 5 1/4. No surprise that I have 2 Brighton defenders. They're coming off back-to-back clean sheets. Wolves versus Burnley then. Adama Traore picking things up recently, averaging 5.5 in his last 4. The best Wolves asset right now. Nelson Semedo's picking up his play as well, though, averaging 4.5 in his last 4. Chris Wood. This is a player like recently. Burnley's Chris Wood averaging 6.25, and then his forward partner, Matej Vydra, 4.75 in his last 4, although he didn't start the last game, only came on for the last couple minutes. Leeds versus Manchester United, then Jack Harrison averaging 6.25 in his last 4. Stuart Dallas averaging 5.5. And for United, their best asset right now as far as fantasy goes, Mason Greenwood. He's been starting games, he's been scoring, 8.75 in his last 4. And then Edinson Cavani, he seems like their best forward all around as far as consistency and what he brings to the table just on the park. They score more when Cavani is on the pitch, and he scores as well. He scored the last goal in their last match. Looking at Aston Villa versus West Brom, Ollie Watkins averaging 5.5 points in his last 4. John McGinn, the next best option at 3.75. As for West Brom, Matheus Pereira averaging 8.75 in his last 4 matches, and this is before their Game Week 32 match against Leicester, so these averages before that match kicks off. Mbaye Diagne is averaging 4.5 in his last 4 matches. Speaking of Leicester, they're taking on Crystal Palace. Kelechi Iheanacho, again, this is before his match against West Brom, so he's averaging 10.25, 10 1/4 in his last 4. And Mark Albrighton, 3.5. Christian Benteke for Crystal Palace, 4.75. And then Jeffrey Schlupp, 2.5 in his last 4 matches. Now, if you have any lineup questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll try to get to those as quickly as possible. If I don't get to it right away, and maybe you see a question you might have an answer to, go ahead, reply. We can discuss it there. A few of you have done that already. I encourage you to continue doing so. It's been a lot of fun. All right, before we get to the Would You Rather segment of today's video, let's get to the Waiver 11 for Game Week 33. And if you're unfamiliar with this, these are players that are available on waivers in one of my fantasy draft leagues. All right, we'll start with the goalkeeper as we usually do with the waiver 11 and then work our way up the pitch. No surprise here, it's Aaron Ramsdale as my starting keeper once again. Doesn't matter which fantasy draft league I use to pick this waiver 11. He's the one I'm going with. Should just hand him the captain's armband for the club. First defender I'm taking is Seamus Coleman, Everton at Arsenal. I mentioned earlier why Seamus Coleman is a good asset right now. He's in form, he's playing, he's been productive, so a no-brainer for this waiver 11. And then Darnell Furlong of West Brom returns to the waiver 11, and he's going up against Aston Villa. He has not played his game for Game Week 32 at the time of this recording, so hopefully he doesn't pick up an injury or a suspension. And then the third defender I'm taking is Joel Veltman, Brighton at Sheffield United. Love that matchup, so Veltman a no-brainer as well. And the fourth one, the last starting defender I'm taking into the waiver 11 is Christian Zuma of Chelsea. He's available once again in this league as he was last week, so I used him last week, picked up a clean sheet, hoping he does the same against West Ham this week. Into the midfield we go now. Gylfi Sigridson of Everton. They're at Arsenal. 2 goals in his last match, so he's in form. And then another player in that matchup on the other side, though, Nicolas Pepe of Arsenal, going up against Everton. I like the way he's played recently. And then of Wolves, Leander Dendoncker is the third midfielder I'm taking. He's going up against Burnley. And the fourth and final starting midfielder in the waiver 11 is Hakim Ziyech. This is an interesting one for me because he's probably available on waivers in your fantasy draft league because he hasn't been playing consistently for Chelsea, and his numbers have been up and down really all season long. So the fact that he's being trusted a little bit more by Thomas Tuchel is intriguing to me, and if he is a prominent part of that Chelsea attack moving forward, he's a great one to pick up if he's available on waivers. Now to the forwards. Joelinton of Newcastle is the first one I'm taking. Never a whole lot available as far as forwards go in either of my fantasy draft leagues. And then Fabio Silva is the other one. Fabio Silva of Wolves, he's been coming off the bench, but take a flyer on that. Hopefully he can get a goal this week against Burnley. We'll see. And then on the bench, goalkeeper Bailey Peacock-Farrell, best name available. That's why I'm taking him. And then Reece James, Matt Ritchie, and Ryan Brewster round out the waiver 11 for Game Week 33. And now time for one of my favorite segments in these preview videos. Would you rather have Christian Pulisic or Mason Greenwood of Manchester United? Last week I was talking up Christian Pulisic. I told you to pick him over Kai Havertz. I stand by that, but Mason Greenwood, as good as it gets right now, red hot. I'd have to go with Mason Greenwood between these two, and he's someone that I was down on just about a month ago, so I'm eating my words a little bit. Definitely picking Mason Greenwood over Christian Pulisic at this stage. Now, would you rather have Nelson Semedo or Lewis Dunk? Nelson Semedo has been very good as well, but Lewis Dunk, he gets on the end of those crosses. He's one of their better goal scorers all season long, despite being a defender. So I'm taking Lewis Dunk between these two. And then obviously Brighton picking up the clean sheets as well. So slam dunk, Lewis Dunk. Now, would you rather have James Rodriguez or Adama Traore? James Rodriguez has been good recently as well, but Adama Traore playing his best ball of the season so far for Wolves, and their best attacking option right now with Neves and Neto out of the lineup in recent weeks. So Adama Traore, a great player to consider at this stage, but James Rodriguez is the one that I prefer, and maybe a bit of bias there. James Rodriguez is a player that I've been a fan of all season long, even though he's had dips in play. But honestly, Adama Traore is someone that I've been talking up as well. I just got to go with the Everton guy at this point. I believe a better all-around player at this stage. Now, Diogo Jota or Bruno Fernandes? Would you rather have Jota or Fernandes? Two very good fantasy options this year. Fernandes, you look at his totals, obviously running away with it. So a big edge if you're just comparing their totals so far this year. But Jota missing a lot of time due to injury. He's seeing regular minutes now once again, and he's a reliable option for Liverpool. A great attacking option for them. Bruno Fernandes hasn't scored in the last few weeks. I'm going to go with Jota. I'm going to go with Liverpool's Diogo Jota over Bruno Fernandes. And finally, got 2 forwards for you. Maybe not 2 that you'd think I'd bring up at this point. Would you rather have Danny Welbeck or Chris Wood? Danny Welbeck scored in back-to-back games 3 or 4 weeks ago. Chris Wood has been on fire as well in the last 5 games. He didn't score against Manchester United. From what I saw in that match, though, he was still very active. He's still a focal part of their offense, of their attack. So I'm leaning towards Chris Wood. I would pick Chris Wood over Danny Welbeck, and some decent matches for Chris Wood going forward. I hope that helps. Well, that wraps up another Game Week preview video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a like if you did. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. And share it. Share the video. Share the knowledge with your peers, unless you're very competitive and you don't want anyone else in your fantasy draft league to learn about the things that we're talking about here. I get it. But still, share the video. All right, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for hanging out at the spot.